We kicked our son out at 16 for getting his girlfriend pregnant, told him he'd ruined his life and ours, and cut him off completely. Now he's a self-made millionaire. We're broke, facing medical bills, and losing our home. And when we reached out for help, he told us we're dead to him. My husband Robert and I raised our son Daniel with very clear values. We believed in discipline, accountability, faith, and personal responsibility. We didn't believe love meant removing consequences or cushioning every bad choice. We believed that if you shield your kids from reality, you're setting them up to fail later. Daniel wasn't a bad kid growing up. He was smart, capable, and stubborn. As he got older, especially around 14 or 15, he started pushing back more. He wanted independence, wanted to make his own decisions, and didn't like being told no. He got a part-time job, started dating Emily, and spent less time at home. I warned him more than once about sex, responsibility, and how fast one mistake could change his entire future. I didn't yell, I didn't threaten. I talked to him like a parent who understood what the stakes were. He brushed it off every time, said we were overreacting, said everyone does it, said we were old-fashioned. When he told us Emily was pregnant, it felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, hearing the words, and feeling a mix of shock, embarrassment, and panic all at once. My first thoughts weren't about nursery colors or baby names. They were about how he was 16, how Emily was barely older, how neither of them had money, education, or a plan. I thought about our church, our family, what people would say, and what kind of example this set. I know that part will rub people the wrong way, but I'm being honest. Reputation mattered to us because values mattered to us. We had a family meeting that night. It wasn't screaming. It wasn't out of control. It was serious. We told Daniel exactly what this meant. That he'd thrown his life off course, that he'd made a choice that would follow him forever, that he'd dragged Emily into something she couldn't undo. And yes, we told him it affected us too, because it did. Parents don't stop being impacted just because their kids make adult decisions. I've seen people say that telling a teenager they ruined their life is abusive. I don't agree. I think pretending everything is fine when it isn't does more harm. We weren't being cruel. We were being honest about consequences. What we didn't do, and I'll acknowledge this plainly, is focus on logistics in that moment. We didn't talk about hospital plans or schooling. We didn't ask how he intended to support a child. We focused on responsibility, on the fact that he wanted to act like an adult while still expecting to be treated like a child. That's where the ultimatum came in. We told Daniel that if he was going to bring a child into the world, he needed to step up fully. That meant he couldn't continue living under our roof as if nothing had changed. We told him he had time to figure out arrangements, but he couldn't stay. Emily was not welcome in our home, not out of spite, but because we refused to normalize a situation we fundamentally disagreed with. People online love to jump straight to, "You made your kid homeless." That isn't what happened. He had options. He had Emily's family. He had friends. He chose his path. We also cut off support. No car, no money, no financial safety net. Again, not because we didn't care, but because we believed that shielding him would only reinforce the idea that actions don't carry weight. We did not attend the birth. We sent back baby pictures unopened. That wasn't easy, but we believed that showing approval would send the wrong message. After he left, we told him plainly that we needed space and that if he wanted a relationship, it would start with an apology and accountability, not groveling, acknowledgement. That never came. Holidays passed, birthdays passed, years passed. I won't pretend I didn't think about him. I did. But I also told myself that distance was part of the lesson, that he needed to learn what real life looked like. I assumed things were hard for him. I assumed the relationship didn't last. I assumed he struggled financially and emotionally, and I'll admit this even if it sounds ugly, part of me believed that struggle meant we were right. I never checked. Fast forward to now. Robert and I are not in the position we thought we'd be at this age. Medical issues have drained our savings. Robert's health has declined faster than expected. Bills piled up, retirement accounts dwindled, and a few months ago, we received notice that our home may be foreclosed on. Around the same time, I learned, through someone else, that Daniel is doing very well. More than well. He owns a business, multiple properties. He's financially independent, a self-made millionaire, from what I can tell. I didn't feel proud the way I thought I might. I felt shocked, disoriented, and if I'm being honest, resentful. Because while he was thriving, we were drowning. It felt like some kind of cosmic imbalance. After a lot of debate, I reached out. It wasn't easy. I knew it meant swallowing pride. but I also believed that family obligation doesn't disappear just because time has passed. I sent a message explaining that we were struggling, that we were facing serious medical bills and might lose our home, that no matter what happened in the past, we were still his parents. I didn't apologize outright. I expressed regret that things went the way they did. I focused on the present, on need. His response was short, calm, almost clinical. He said we were dead to him, that we made our choice years ago, that he didn't owe us anything, not forgiveness, not contact, not help. And he asked us not to contact him again. That was it. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I keep asking myself how something meant to teach responsibility turned into permanent exile, how enforcing consequences became something unforgivable. I still believe values matter. I still believe actions have consequences, but I also never expected that lesson to come back around like this. So I'm asking honestly, are parents really supposed to be punished forever for enforcing consequences? Or is there something everyone else sees that I still don't? Edit. So I'm going to clarify a few things because a lot of you are reading things into this that weren't there. First, Daniel was not thrown out on the street. He was told he could not continue living in our home under those circumstances. There is a difference. He had a place to go. He went to Emily's family initially and later made other arrangements. At no point was he sleeping in a car or wandering around with nowhere to go. People are acting like we shoved him out the door with nothing, and that simply isn't accurate. Second, he absolutely could have come back. That part keeps getting ignored. We did not tell him he was permanently banished. We told him that if he wanted to be treated as part of the household again, there needed to be accountability, an apology, an acknowledgement that his choices had consequences and affected more than just himself. That never happened, not once. Years went by, and he never reached out with anything resembling that. Silence goes both ways. Third, the language people are reacting so strongly to was said in a highly emotional moment. Yes, I told him he ruined his life. Yes, I told him he ruined ours. That wasn't meant as some permanent label or declaration of worth. It was a blunt way of communicating the seriousness of what he'd done. When a 16-year-old gets someone pregnant, that does fundamentally alter the course of multiple lives. Pretending otherwise would have been dishonest. I'm also seeing a lot of people throwing around the word abuse, and I need to be very clear here. We were not abusive parents. We did not hit Daniel. We did not scream at him daily. We did not isolate him from the world or control his every move. We enforced rules. We enforced boundaries. We believed in consequences. There is a difference, no matter how uncomfortable it makes people feel. Some commenters are acting as though we enjoyed cutting him off or that it was easy. It wasn't. It was painful. But we believed then, and to some extent I still believe now, that hardship builds resilience. That shielding children from consequences doesn't prepare them for adulthood. That lesson is very popular to praise when it works, and very easy to condemn when people don't like the outcome. Another thing being exaggerated is the idea that we somehow took pleasure in withholding support. We didn't do that out of cruelty. We did it because continuing to fund his life would have directly contradicted the message we were trying to send. If you want to act like an adult, you don't get to rely on your parents as a safety net indefinitely. That was the principle. We weren't trying to punish him forever. We were trying to force him to stand on his own. People also keep saying we abandoned him emotionally. That's not how I see it. We stepped back. We gave space. We expected him to reflect. He chose not to reach out. He chose to build a life without us. That was his choice too, not just ours. And before anyone asks, no, we did not secretly monitor him or follow his life from a distance. We didn't stalk his social media. We didn't check in with people about him. We assumed he wanted nothing to do with us, and we respected that. That's why learning about his success later was such a shock. It wasn't something we'd been watching unfold. Some commenters are saying, "You only reached out when you needed money." I won't pretend the timing isn't connected to our current situation, but that doesn't mean the outreach was purely transactional. We reached out because we're aging, because we're facing health issues, because life didn't turn out the way we planned. Families help each other in hard times. That's what we taught our son. I don't think it's unreasonable to believe that applies in both directions. And no, I didn't include a full apology in the first message. That wasn't because I feel no regret. It was because I didn't want to reopen every wound all at once or turn the conversation into a defensive spiral. I wanted to start with the present, not relitigate 16 years in a single text. Apparently, that was taken as proof that I feel entitled. That wasn't my intention. I also want to address the idea that success somehow erases the past. I'm not saying Daniel owes us money because he's wealthy. I'm saying that cutting off your parents entirely, declaring them dead, feels extreme given that we were trying to instill responsibility, not malice. Values matter, context matters, intent matters, or at least I thought they did. A lot of you are judging us with hindsight and with cultural standards that didn't exist, or at least weren't mainstream, when Daniel was a teenager. Teenage pregnancy was not treated lightly in our community. It carried real social and moral weight. Pretending that didn't factor into our reaction would be dishonest. We didn't make decisions in a vacuum. I'm not asking to be told I was perfect. I know mistakes were made. I know some things could have been handled differently, but being told we deserve everything that's happening now, that losing our home, struggling with medical bills, and being cut off entirely as some kind of karmic justice, feels cruel in its own way. I still believe parents have a right to enforce boundaries. I still believe actions have consequences. And I still believe that being firm doesn't automatically make you abusive. What I'm struggling with is whether enforcing those beliefs really justifies permanent exile. Whether values are only respected when they benefit the child, whether parents are expected to carry regret forever while children are allowed to move on completely. I'm being judged by people who don't understand values, context, or what it's like to raise a child believing that your job is to prepare them for the real world, not protect them from it at all costs. Update 1. After the edit, I stopped checking the post for a day or two. The comments were overwhelming, and honestly, a lot of them felt cruel rather than constructive. I told myself people online don't know our family, our faith, or the context we lived in. I focused on real life instead. That's when real life started collapsing. The first thing that happened was that the rest of the family found out. Not just vague, there's drama rumors, but the actual story. One of my nieces recognized the post. She didn't comment, didn't ask questions, she sent screenshots. Within days, relatives I hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly weighing in. Some reached out gently, asking if things were really as bad as they sounded. Others weren't gentle at all. What shocked me most wasn't that people disagreed with us. It was how many of them sided with Daniel without hesitation. Cousins I assumed shared our values told me outright that what we did was abandonment, not discipline. One of my sisters said something that I can't get out of my head. You didn't teach him responsibility. You taught him he was on his own. The church situation was worse. We've attended the same church for decades. It's been our community, our social circle, our moral anchor. I always believed we were respected there. After this, that changed. Conversations felt strained. Invitations stopped coming. The pastor's wife, who used to sit with me every Sunday, started choosing a different pew. No one confronted me directly, but the distance was unmistakable. Then I heard, through someone else, that Daniel and Emily had quietly reconnected with people from the church years ago, that they'd been open about what happened, that they'd never asked anyone to take sides, just explained why they left town and never came back. Suddenly, I wasn't the firm parent enforcing values. I was the cautionary tale. Around the same time, I realized Daniel had blocked me everywhere, not just on his phone, but on social media platforms I hadn't even thought to check. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, even my old email bounced back with an automated reply saying the address no longer accepted messages from me. The only response I got was indirect. When I sent another message, short, careful, neutral, it was read, not by Daniel, by Luke. Luke didn't sugarcoat anything. He told me Daniel had no interest in reopening communication, and that if I had anything to say, I could say it to him instead. He accused me of rewriting history. He brought up things I had long dismissed as family conflict and framed them very differently. He mentioned conversations Daniel had with school counselors years ago. He mentioned therapy. He mentioned notes, documentation. That word, documentation, landed harder than I expected. Luke said very calmly that if we continued to push contact, he would take steps to formally protect Daniel and his family from further harassment. He used the phrase hostile home environment when referring to Daniel's teenage years. I told him that was unfair. He replied, "You don't get to decide how it felt to him." Around this time, our financial situation worsened in a way that could no longer be ignored or explained away. We received the foreclosure notice, not a warning, not a discussion, a date. a timeline. The medical bills that had been stacking up suddenly felt unbearable. Robert's health hasn't improved. If anything, the stress has made it worse. We're burning through what little savings we had left just to keep the lights on and the insurance active. For the first time, it hit me fully. There is no backup plan. We always assumed that if things got truly dire, family would rally. That's what family does. But family apparently has opinions and boundaries. I started replaying everything. Not just the pregnancy, not just the confrontation, all the moments before and after. The way Daniel stood there during that meeting, silent, jaw clenched. The way he didn't argue when we gave him the deadline. The way he left without yelling, without slamming doors. At the time, I took that as defiance or stubbornness. Now, I'm not so sure. What unsettled me most was realizing something I'd never allowed myself to consider. There was never a real way back for him. We told ourselves there was. We told ourselves he could return if he apologized. But what would that apology have actually meant? Apologizing for his child existing? For not undoing something that couldn't be undone? We demanded acknowledgement of wrongdoing without offering any path forward that didn't involve humiliation. That thought keeps looping. I still believe in consequences. I still believe parents shouldn't shield children from every hardship. I'm not suddenly renouncing everything I stood for, but I can't ignore one fact anymore. Daniel survived without us. He didn't come crawling back. He didn't fail. He didn't collapse. He built something without any safety net, without family support, without forgiveness. And instead of that being proof that our method worked, it's starting to feel like proof that we weren't needed, or worse, that we were something he needed to escape. That realization doesn't come with relief. It comes with a kind of hollow dread. I don't know where this leaves us. I don't know if this is the consequence of our values or the cost of misapplying them. I don't know if acknowledging that changes anything at all. What I do know is this: I believed suffering built character. I didn't expect it to build a wall I couldn't climb. I'll update again if there's anything more to say. Right now, I'm sitting with questions I never thought I'd be asking. Final update. The house is gone. That's the blunt truth of it. The foreclosure went through. We delayed as long as we could, argued over paperwork, made phone calls that went nowhere, appealed to programs that were already overburdened. In the end, it didn't matter. We packed up decades of our life into boxes, decided what could fit into a small rental, and watched strangers walk through rooms that used to feel permanent. I won't dramatize that part. Losing a house is humiliating, but it's also mundane in the worst way. You sign documents. You hand over keys. You leave. The world doesn't stop. Robert's health hasn't improved. If anything, it's deteriorated. The stress has accelerated everything we were trying not to name. Appointments blur together. Bills arrive faster than we can process them. Retirement is no longer a concept we discuss. Survival is. And through all of this, Daniel has remained silent. Not angrily silent, not spitefully silent, just absent. I hear about him through others, which is its own kind of humiliation. A former neighbor mentioned seeing him quoted in a business article. A distant cousin shared, without thinking, that Daniel and Emily bought another property. Something commercial this time. Someone else mentioned Mason is applying to colleges, looking at engineering programs, internships already lined up. I learned indirectly that Mason doesn't know us. Not that he dislikes us. Not that he's been told we're villains. He simply doesn't know who we are. Our names don't exist in his daily life. We're not a topic, not a memory, not even a warning story. That realization landed harder than anything else. At some point, after the house was gone, after the last appeal failed, after I stopped waking up thinking I could fix this with the right words, I did something I hadn't done before. I wrote to Daniel without asking for anything. No mention of money, no mention of the house, no mention of illness. I didn't frame it as reconciliation or closure. I didn't tell him I was still his mother, or that blood mattered, or that time should heal things. I didn't justify what we did. I acknowledged harm. I told him that when he was 16, we didn't give him consequences. We withdrew safety. That we framed it as values because it made us feel righteous, but that it left him alone at the moment he needed parents the most. I told him that I understand now that apologizing wasn't a doorway back. It was a demand for submission. I told him I was wrong to believe love could be conditional without becoming something else entirely. It wasn't eloquent, it wasn't long, it wasn't dramatic. And for the first time, I didn't expect forgiveness, Daniel replied. It was brief, controlled, final. He said, forgiveness is not access, that he did not hate us, but he did not trust us, that success does not erase abandonment, that the life he built required learning how to live without parents, not alongside them, and that reopening contact, even kindly, was not something he was willing to do. He didn't insult us. He didn't argue. He didn't accuse. He set a boundary and closed the door. I sat with that response for a long time. I won't pretend it didn't hurt. It did. It still does. There's a reflex in me that wants to say he's being too harsh, that people change, that parents shouldn't be erased forever for one decision made in fear and panic. But the uncomfortable truth is this: it wasn't one decision. It was a pattern dressed up as principle. We didn't just kick him out. We withheld help, withheld presence, withheld compassion, and told ourselves that was love because it aligned with our beliefs. We told ourselves suffering was instructional. We never asked who the lesson was really for. What I understand now, too late to fix, but not too late to name, is that inheritance isn't money. It's safety. It's knowing you can fail and still belong somewhere. It's knowing that when you make a mistake, you won't be erased. We took that from him. Daniel didn't owe us reconciliation because he succeeded. He didn't owe us grace because we're struggling now. He didn't owe us access because we're his parents. Those were assumptions we made, not promises he agreed to. There will be no reconciliation. I've stopped reaching out, not because I don't care, but because continuing would be about my comfort, not his. I've accepted that this is how the story ends, not with forgiveness, not with redemption, but with consequence. And before anyone says it, yes, I still believe in responsibility. I still believe actions have consequences, but I no longer believe that values, when stripped of mercy, become virtue. Sometimes they become weapons. Sometimes they become excuses. This isn't the ending I imagined when we told ourselves we were doing the right thing, but it is the ending we earned.